Does Toy Story 4 stick the landing? The Toy Story franchise is one of the most beloved trilogies of films in recent memory. Not only did the first feature film from Pixar kick off a new era of storytelling that appealed to an audience of all ages, but you would be hard-pressed to find someone who still doesn't get teary-eyed or crack a smile when they think about Woody, Buzz, and the rest of the gang.
You are a child's plaything!
You are a sad, strange little man.
The films blended superb storytelling, voice acting, and animation, with every entry getting perfect scores on Rotten Tomatoes, or at least nearly perfect scores. And with the seemingly last film in the series, Toy Story 3, which dropped in 2010, the franchise appeared to be coming to a close with the tearful ending that wrapped up Woody's adventures with his child, Andy. No, not that scene. The real one. Not cool, you guys.
They mean a lot to me.
Anyway, when it was announced that Pixar was going to make a fourth Toy Story film, fans were scratching their heads. If the Toys' stories had ended in Toy Story 3, would Toy Story 4 ruin the Toys' stories for everyone? I can't believe I nailed that. Woo! With the fourquel set to hit theaters next week, reviews for the film are hitting the web, and the big questions fans are asking are, did we need a Toy Story 4? And did it at least stick the landing? So get ready for your spoiler-free review roundup. So, did Toy Story 4 stick the landing? The short answer is yes. And the long answer is very yes. Or would it be very yes? Because it's the long answer.
Got that joke.
It appears that the folks at Pixar knew what we were all thinking when Toy Story 4 was announced. Angie Han's review on Mashable was best summed up in her tweet, Toy Story 4 knows you're wondering why it needs to exist at all, and responds by asking why any of us do. That's definitely some existential content for a movie that is ostensibly for kids, but it's what we've come to expect from Pixar. Seriously, you try watching the first 20 minutes of Up without crying. So what are reviews praising the most in Toy Story 4? Mainly the fact that this film is more outright humorous than the rest of the series. Laura Prudhomme over at IGN said it's also the funniest film in the franchise, with an emphasis on physical comedy facilitated by new characters like Keanu Reeves' motorcycle stuntman Duke Kaboom, and Keegan-Michael Key and Jordan Peele's snarky stuffed toys Ducky and Bunny. But the most hilarious moments of Toy Story 4 come courtesy of Tony Hale's Forky, a neurotic spork who has somehow gained sentience after being created by Bonnie in kindergarten. Now this gushing over the cast, both new and returning, permeates the reviews, with most giving special shout-outs to Forky, the spork with popsicle stick legs, googly eyes, and pipe cleaner arms. David Sims at The Atlantic said, the film's most challenging, bizarre, and lovable material involves a beady-eyed Frankenstein's monster named Forky, Tony Hale, who becomes the newest addition to Bonnie's flock after she builds him in kindergarten class. Most important, he doesn't know why he's alive, and reader, that's when I leaned forward in my seat. Angie Han in Mashable's review said this of Forky, Toy Story 4 wrings plenty of laughs out of the bizarre sight of a spork with existential despair. It's just plain funny to watch him launch himself into the garbage over and over again, only for Woody to drag him back out, and endearing to hear him try and make sense of the strange situation that he's found himself in. But Forky wasn't alone in praise. Many critics were happy to see the return of Bo Peep, who was MIA in Toy Story 3, and cited her character development as a major highlight. Polygon's Karen Han points out how her transition from a delicate love interest to leader felt organic. The reintroduction of Bo is not only a rectifying of her past sidelining as Woody's love interest, but the best Disney has done in course correcting and signifying strength in its female characters. Slash Film's Josh Spiegel doubles down on this with, mercifully, this revitalization doesn't smack of the same lazy characterization of strong female characters in recent Disney fare like Dumbo and the Nutcracker and the Four Realms. Though it's true that the earlier Toy Story films don't give much of anything for Bo to do, that trend is erased within the first few minutes. As for how the story fits into the Toy Story pantheon, David Sims' review easily summed up the consensus with, Toy Story 4 wisely feels like less of a new chapter and more like an epilogue, an addendum for Woody that muses on the peculiarities of the symbiotic relationship between toys and humans these movies have long explored. Piggybacking on that was IGN. Whether it hits you as hard as Toy Story 3 did probably depends on where you you are in your life, and the emphasis on humor may not work for everyone. A lot of it probably depends on your appreciation for the comedic stylings of Key and Peele, but at our press screening, there wasn't a dry eye in the house. So with all of this Toy Story love, were there any negatives? Well, not really, but a lot of the reviews seem to clue in on the same thing. Nerdist's own Micah Arbiter says, "The Tides of Time has a more pronounced and metatextual effect on Woody's old pals. Buzz Lightyear is demoted to a secondary character and has been effectively lobotomized in Toy Story 4, while the likes of Jessie, Rex, Ham, Mr. Potato Head, and my beloved Slinky Dog are barely seen whatsoever." Jermaine Lucier over at IO9 expounded on that. Even Buzz Lightyear, the usual second lead, doesn't have as much to do as he usually does, and he still has at least 4 or 5 times as much to do as Jessie, Rex, Slinky Dog, and the rest. It's a little disappointing, but ultimately it does no real disservice to the movie, with similar critiques from the folks over at /Film and IGN. Now, a couple of our Nerdist News producers, Stovetop and Aaron, had a chance to see the film, and their consensus is 2 forks up. They laughed, they cried, they laughed while they cried. It's like a normal day for them. While this film will probably do gangbusters at the box office when it is released on June 21st, this entry does feel like a real ending to the Toy Story franchise, and it would be hard to see Pixar going back to this well for a Toy Story 5. Plus, Pixar's upcoming slate appears to be filled with new projects without any sequels. But then again, that's what we all thought after Toy Story 3. But what do you folks think? Are you excited for Toy Story 4? Which Pixar movie is your favorite? And should Pixar just release the entirety of Keanu Reeves voicing Duke Kaboom as a Blu-ray special feature 100% would watch?
Yes!
Let's discuss. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and mash that little bell to get notified every time we drop a video or go live with the show. And if you're looking for other movie review roundups, check out our video on if X-Men Dark Phoenix is the worst X-Men movie. Is the consensus yay or nay? You'll have to watch to find out.